might be what you're feeling.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Hi, everyone. I am Phoenix Healer, aka Phoenix is what they call me. And today we have Gigi joining us. Hello. Nice to see you.
Hello, hello.
Today we are going to be talking about the connection between what are considered, quote unquote, what are considered to be mental disorders and spiritual gifts. Okay. So, what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to kind of read through these different little sections and I'll stop and we'll do discussion and story time, I guess you could say, and just kind of work our way through the list. Okay. So,
Perfect.
the first one we're going to touch on is bipolar disorder and spiritual gifts. Bipolar disorder's description is bipolar disorder is characterized by extreme mood swings, including manic or hypomanic episodes and depressive episodes. Individuals may experience heightened energy and creativity during manic phases and deep introspection or melancholy during depressive phases. Now, the spiritual gifts part of this says clairvoyance and creative intuition. During manic episodes, some individuals report heightened perception, creativity, and intense spiritual experiences. This can parallel experiences of clairvoyance, where visions or insights come with intense clarity. Channeling and mediumship. In manic states, individuals might feel a strong connection to otherworldly entities or messages, which can resemble experiences of channeling or receiving guidance from spiritual realms. Now, the connection they're saying between these two is an overlap in sensory perception. The heightened states of perception during manic, I will always quote that, during manic episodes may resemble spiritual experiences where individuals feel a stronger connection to unseen realms. This similarity in heightened sensory input can be seen as a bridge between mental health experiences and spiritual phenomena. Now, as an example, I know somebody who actually has suffered from the manic episodes. And when I was talking to them, I was like, can I stop you right there? And they're like, yeah, sure. What's up? And can I change how you refer to that, please? Because they've put such a negative annotation on it that every time you say it, you're labeling yourself as having that and giving yourself that negativity, right? And they're like, oh, okay. Well, what do you suggest? And I'm like, change it to euphoric.
Mm.
Change it to a euphoric episode. It doesn't have to be this horrible thing, right? So, you know, um, when it comes to bipolar, I've been around a few people who's like, I think they are, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. They're switching into that other realm and it feels real to them, you know?
Mm.
I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a label. I think a lot of the way that I look at this comes from both my personal experience with being labeled as ADD and a close loved one of mine that is labeled as schizophrenic. And while I've seen this go down in the physical world and how it has affected his physical reality and his physical life, a lot of what I've come to believe is actually based off the fact that there's a fine line between genius and insanity. So the quote goes. And from my experience, when I interact with these people, including my loved one, this is exactly the case. I would actually consider him to be probably the smartest person I've ever encountered. When he
Exactly.
took yeah, when he took his SATs, back in the day when the maximum, I think it was like 1600. I mean, he just fell a few points short of that 1600. Scholarships everywhere. And with something like mental illness, they say it comes out during, 18, 19, 20, that sort of real formative years, that lingering time between a child and an adult before even our prefrontal cortex is fully formed.
And that's
So I think,
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Well, and that's the thing too. I was literally just talking to my best friend about this. I think it was the day before yesterday. Oops. And um, I was like, I never knew. And she's like, that's because women, um, we exhibit it differently. We
Yes, I've
aren't,
heard.
and that's the thing is, and I had to sit back and think about that, where men are very can't sit still and just and talk too much. Women, we internalize it, where men, it seems, externalize it. And so there's no
Mhm.
way to know that a woman actually would would have it, or and again, it's not even that it's a mental disorder. It's you're stepping into spiritual stuff. Whether you want to label it that or not. You're stepping into divine stuff. You're stepping into something that is otherworldly. However makes you feel a little bit more comfortable rather than labeling yourself as having this mental disorder. You don't have a mental disorder. You are more highly connected with other realms, and there's nothing wrong with that. Society has made us believe that it is wrong to be connected to the divine without going to some form of church, or some form
Right.
of place, right? My place is on my bed meditating. My
Yeah.
place is
And I
talking to myself, talking through things to myself because it's coming out and I gotta verbalize it. And like I said, like we were talking before I hit record. In the last year, almost year, some things were brought to my attention that you're not even empathetic, blah blah blah. Like
mm,
I'm one of the most empathetic people I know. Like I cry about everything. I'm always feeling people's stuff. And I really sat back after realizing, looking at it like, okay, well, I'm getting all of these synchronicities on TikTok, doom scrolling one after the other. And it's ADHD, neurodivergence, ADHD. I'm talking to my spirit team, like, the hell are you guys doing? They're like, would you just look at it for a second? And I did. And I'm like, well, shit. Ah, fuck. Ah, shit. And once I sat back and thought about the things that this person had said to me, I was like, well, that was kind of out of my control. I didn't know. Had I known that I was being perceived that way because of these things, maybe things could have been different. I don't know. But things worked out the way that they needed to. And, I finally did figure it out. Um, and now I want to get it out for everybody that, you know, don't think that you're abnormal, which is what they label you as by calling it a disorder. You're not abnormal. If we're gonna get really, really far into it, the neurotypicals are actually the abnormal. And most of the neurotypicals aren't even neurotypical. They're just afraid to step into these gifts. They're afraid to feel these things that they have coming through. You know what I mean? Like they're brushing it off. Like one of my exes, I swear we timeline jumped like multiple times in our relationship because I know at one point we were talking about like, the universe and that there's other life forms and then like a couple months later we were watching TV. This is actually what sparked us breaking up. We were watching TV and he's like, "Oh, we're getting ready to go to the moon and basically live there." And I was like, "We can't even handle our own planet. Why the hell are we going to the moon?" Like, what? And I was like, and then that's when I got into the whole like other other beings. And he lost his shit. What are you talking about? You're fucking crazy. And I'm like, you said that you believed that. No, I didn't. I never said that. And so either he's bipolar or we timeline shifted. I have no idea what it was. But,
Yeah.
I've had all these different experiences, and had I caught on sooner, maybe it would have been a little different. But again, I'm where I need to be. I finally caught on. I finally figured it out. But we need these neurotypicals to understand that these things that you're probably feeling are okay to feel. And if you need help, we are here to help. We're here to help,
Yeah.
you know?
I to being called crazy, like even how your ex said it, like, what are you, crazy? You know what I mean? Like
No, I'm
the
not.
yeah, and I think like a lot of what I look how I look at it is like time is not linear. Time is occurring all at once, whether, past, present, future, however you want to look at it. And a lot of what I think is occurring with these issues and in some of the situations which are truly severe psychosis is that they are time traveling, so to speak, within different dimensions. And I think when they get, I don't want to use the word stuck in between dimensions, but when they're out exploring the other dimensions and they don't come back to the physical grounding of the reality, and when you look at it from true psychosis perspective, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're actually souls having human experiences.
Exactly.
So it's so easy for us as a soul to be like, this isn't working. I want my soul to leave my body. And that's why we do things like astral traveling and things like that. That I think it's no different when it comes to the connection between these mental quote unquote disorders and the spiritual gifts that we have, because these people are very gifted. We are very gifted. If you're classified with one of these mental disorders, there's no doubt
Or
in my
multiple.
mind that you don't significant spiritual gifts.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too is, we have two things that embody us, right? We have our soul and we have our spirit. They are separate
Mm.
entities, right? The
Yeah.
soul is the only one that can reincarnate. The spirit cannot reincarnate. Now, if the spirit chooses, say, my spirit leaves, right? Okay, well, my reincarnated soul has already gone off to do whatever she's going to do, right? Now my spirit, after this lifetime is over, will make the decision. Do I start reincarnations or do I become a spirit guide, a guardian, what have you, right? Now, if the spirit chooses to reincarnate, there's a process that happens where the spirit turns into a soul and can then start reincarnation processes. Now, the spirit, if it chooses the latter, will then become a spirit guide, what have you, ancestor floating about, whatever. Um, but yeah, like there's a lot of this information that people just anyway. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next one is ADHD. Is characterized the description is characterized by difficulties with attention. Put my glasses on. Hold on just a second. Hyperactivity and impulsiveness. Individuals may have trouble focusing on one task, but can be highly creative and intuitive. Um, clear, uh, clear cognizance and intuitive insights are the spiritual gifts. The rapid thought processes and multiple streams of consciousness in ADHD can be similar to experiences of claircognizance, which is clear knowing, where individuals receive sudden, clear insights of knowledge without logical reasoning. Remote viewing. I have remote viewing. We'll get into that. The ability to focus on various stimuli quickly and intuitively can be akin to the practice of remote viewing, where individuals tap into distant locations or information beyond normal sensory perception. Connection is enhanced perceptual abilities. The tendency for ADHD individuals to process information in a nonlinear way may facilitate a form of intuitive insight or remote viewing. The brain's unique wiring in ADHD can allow for unconventional, methods of accessing and interpreting information, which parallels certain spiritual practices. Now, it said nonlinear. However,
Mm-hmm.
I do I'm gonna devil's advocate you here for a second. The reason I believe time okay, it's not it's not so much linear, but it's also not happening at the same time. Now, the reason I say that is because you have past documented. If the past hadn't already happened and wasn't happening in some form of a line, you wouldn't have that information. So it can't be happening at the same time. Now, timelines can be linear to each other. I'm still struggling with this part. I'm still struggling because while it's not non-linear, it's not happening at the same time either, but it's not linear either. I literally can't figure out what I'm trying to say there. Do you see what I mean? Like,
I understand where you're
it's so
going with
frustrating.
it, but the way I look at it as well, and why I think that time isn't linear, is it's very much how you described with the separation of soul and spirit. You know, your
Okay.
spirit can go on to be a guide,
Mhm.
you know, in which it exists in what we look at as the past, having already lived. Just
Exactly.
like we download information from the past because it quote unquote already happened, we too can download information from the future, which technically hasn't occurred either. So for me, when I look at it as all existing at once, it's no different than the dimensions as well, because you can look into the dimensions when you look at the quantum field and all of that as well. And that adds like a whole nother component. And I think that while there's no like clear answer on how to define the timelines, linear versus non-linear,
Right.
you know, we can agree on certain things, and that not there's it's still so understudied, just like the brain. You know, when you look at it and you bring it back to mental disorders and how the brain functions, and you look at things like subconscious reprogramming and creating new neural pathways.
I lost your sound. There we go. That's They do that all the time when they don't want information out, they'll
Oh,
cut it out. They'll just cut it out, even though I have a massive grid around my computer. If it's not something that we are meant to hear in the moment, ain't gonna hear it. Okay, key
fair.
example. So, if I hear it when it plays, I just wasn't meant to hear it at the time it was said, so we'll find out.
Okay,
Anyway,
we'll find
right.
out.
So, let me blow your mind just a little bit more. Your memories, including past life, current life, your memories are not stored up here. They are
Where are you
stored in
talking
the
about?
tailbone.
In the tailbone. Interesting, tell me more.
I can't. I so my friends, again, I do me and 2 other people, we're connected, like, highly connected, and truth tellers, okay? And they have been working on this and understand it in a more, uh in more depth. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to say that. They understand it in more depth. They have tried to teach me. I don't know if I'm just not ready to latch on yet. It feels sense, and you'll find that if you watch their videos, you feel sense. You can't make sense. Sense can't be made, but it can be felt, right? Your senses are feelings. They're not you can't make a sense. Like, it's anyway. So if you watch their videos, and because they did a podcast with me, but then they also did their own videos, they go into more depth about that. So I can give you that information after. But going back to this whole ADHD thing and the remote viewing, I have always wondered what my daydreams are, and when I had my spiritual awakening 4 years ago, I was literally and um, this is before the argument between me and my ex, that created the whole breakup. Um, I was sitting on the couch and my healing had started coming in, and I mean, my hands were on fire. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm watching this show and my hands are on fire, meaning like I needed to heal this person through the television, right? And I'm like choking back the tears because I don't need him thinking I'm crazy, crying about this. And because I was heightened, right? So, a little bit later, my thing keeps going. A little bit later, I'm a singer, so I'm used to wearing my ears like this. Um, a little bit later, I was talking to my dad, and the moment I started talking to my dad, I started remote viewing, and I'm like, "I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't wanna see this," It's like, I kinda started freaking out, and my guys are like and I tried to pull back, and my guys were, like, shoving me in there, and they're like, "There's something here you gotta see." "I don't want to." "Something in here you gotta see." "I don't want to." And, like, we're literally doing this back and they're like, "Will you just pay attention?" And so I finally just stopped, I paid attention, but that's the thing is, like, I don't remote view unless I feel it is absolutely necessary because I, myself, feel like it is an invasion of privacy, And I have had I've had, people won't go into who, but I've had people, like, come into me and, like, make me remote view them, and I'm literally in the middle of a healing, and this person is, like, standing in front of a mirror. I'm like, "I'm busy, what are you doing?" Like, getting so frustrated. So, it takes a minute, but if you really work on tapping into your spiritual gifts and then also understanding this, you can really hone it. You can not only hone it, but own it, you know? Um, but yeah, remote viewing and it's funny because claircognizance and, clairvoyance have been very active for me since I was, like, knee-high to a grasshopper, like, my entire life. I've always remembered my dreams, and throughout the progression of my life, which I'm 41 Earth years, that's how we'll label that. I've been here 41 Earth years because I don't it's not happy birthday. Birthdays do not exist. You're only born once. You can't have more than one birthday. You can call it a solar return. That doesn't but blowing out candles, that's witchcraft. You're now accepting the curse of adding a year onto your life. Like, don't get me started. Anyway, 41 Earth years, and, I've progressed where I see my dreams. My dreams are very vivid every night. I don't dream like everybody else. "Oh, there's a hidden message." No, mine don't have hidden messages. They're out in plain sight. Like, I don't dream like everybody else does. And again, I believe that is you know, the, neurodivergence, the ADHD, the mental disorders. I believe that is what signifies again, how far you are or how elevated or activated you are in your spiritual gifts. And if, like, I can control flight in my dreams, like, I can fly in my dreams. So not only can I control the dream, I control the flight in my dream. If I don't want to be in the dream anymore, out of there. Like, I won't be there anymore. So again, there's a lot of there truly is a lot of connection between the 2. I mean, we're gonna keep going here, there's only 2 more to go through. But
I have thought about the connection between like remote viewing and dream work. I do a lot of dream work myself as well, and like same thing since like as far as I can remember as a child, I've had like these really intense lucid dreams.
mhm,
For me, I haven't been able to go into a dream and decide that I'm going to be lucid yet. For me, it just happens and then I'm well aware I'm lucid in my dream. But like with any of this dream work that we've been doing, like you said, it's been occurring since childhood without actually having the conscious awareness that we're doing these things. Very much just like astral projection. At first you're like, what am I doing? Why am I leaving my body? Like, I want nothing to do with this. And then you get into the practice of it and you feel a lot more comfortable. But like you said, it's very interesting. It is very much so at times. Like, where's the fine line between being an invasion of privacy and something that drops in? It's not like you control just as much as, like, I'm not controlling the lucidity of my dreams at this point.
Mhm.
It just drops in, just like knowledge, that claircognizance. Like, I don't know why I know what I know, but now I know it. It just came to me.
Right,
And there's that fine line between feeling like you're invading people's privacy and quote unquote knowing things about them,
right.
without their own knowledge and inner knowing. So,
Oh, yeah, the
yeah,
girl I the girl I remote viewed totally felt she's like, "Invasion of privacy," and it like, because
yeah,
anyway, so and I was like, "I was trying not to," like, I felt so bad, and so after that experience, like, unless I absolutely it is required, my guides know, "Don't you freaking dare,"
yeah,
and so but that's the thing too is so let me since we're talking about dreams, let me blow your mind a little bit more and actually give you some rules of the dream realm. Do not do and actually, I just added one from last night that happened to me that I innately knew, don't do it. There were only 3, now there's 4. Do not
mm,
eat anything in your dreams. They are trying to poison you. If you eat
int-
something and you wake up, you will be sick. I have had this happen
int-
to me multiple times because sometimes I forget and I eat because apparently I'm hungry in the dream or they've just enticed me enough or I'm caught off guard and I eat and I wake up, I'm sicker than a dog. Second,
huh,
do not drink anything. Same thing, trying to poison you. Okay? The reason they're trying to poison you is so they can kidnap your soul. So they can kidnap you in the astral
interesting.
because they know you're a powerful person. If they're trying to offer you food, if they're trying to offer you a drink, if they okay, the other one is children. I don't care if it's your own kids. I don't care who it is. Do not help children in your dreams. Again, they are trying to entice you in. They are trying to kidnap you. Okay? That's how they do it. Um oh sorry, there's 5. Do not get on an airplane in your dreams. If you can fly in your dreams, you have no reason to be getting on an airplane in your dreams. No airplanes, no spacecraft. Okay? Those ones. The last one that I found is actually the 5th one. I thought there was only 4, there's actually 5. Um Somebody tried to blow marijuana smoke in my face in my dream last night, and it was
Uh-huh.
to keep me I figured it out once I woke up. It was to keep me in the dream realm because you and I were supposed to do this today. The moment it
Interesting.
happened, I was like, "Oh, shit," and because I literally came to once it took me a minute to realize, but once I realized it, I snapped to and I came out of it. So they failed in their attempt. But don't inhale anything either. Like, they're getting they are
Interesting.
getting they are getting very tricky and, like, they're grasping for straws now. I don't know if you have ever gone to bed, dreamed, woke up the next morning, and had bruises and scratches you did not go to bed with and don't know where they came from. If you
Yes.
have these things, you are an astral warrior. You fight in the dream realm. Whether you are conscious of your fighting, your spirit, your soul, whatever, is fighting, but you're being distracted so you're not paying attention to the fight. Okay?
Mm,
But yeah, and sometimes you are aware of like, I took out Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. They were coming at me and I took them out in the dream. Um,
wow.
yeah, and this was at the beginning of my awakening. When I woke up and I accepted who my reincarnated soul was, it's like all of Hollywood and the elites, like, they're like, "Oh, shit." And I mean, this happened for a good week and a half, 2 weeks. I was fighting celebrities left and right in my dreams. And I'm like, "What the hell? Like, what is going on here?" You know? And I finally figured it out. It took me a minute, but I went back and traced it, and it was once, I accepted who I was. Um,
It's
they're like, "Nope."
interesting if It's interesting if you think about like the connection between like the celebrities, the elite, the wealthy in general, and even if you look at like the declassified documents of the CIA when it comes to just intuition alone, how
Yep.
they are privy to all this information and knowledge that we quote unquote awaken to in periods as we go through various levels of our awakenings. But
They
a lot of this information, just because it's not out there, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
they have been recruiting remote viewers for decades, but yet
Yeah,
making us, the rest of humanity and society, believe that it either doesn't exist or, it's bad
we're
juju, like, it's a bad thing, like, but they're recruiting us, and then once they have us working for them, well, then they own us. No, don't think so. Mm-mm.
yeah,
You know, and there
yeah.
was something on TikTok, there was a recent, and then after this quick one, we'll go back to this. Um, there was something, I'm not even gonna give it full power. I'm just gonna say there was something that happened, recently. It involved a court case, and the funny thing is the spirit of this whole entire thing came in and said, um, you know, "There's more information that isn't
Mm,
being given here." And I found it that interesting that the witches of TikTok were ready to jump in and protect, but the psychics of TikTok were like, "I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole." And I even made a post about it. I was like, "I noticed the witches jumping in, but I noticed that the psychics even more are being quiet about this situation." And I actually
mm.
got quite a few likes on that video. But anyway, yeah, so, talking about remote viewing and all of that, they've been they know it's the powers and abilities we have as humanity. They just
Yeah,
don't they wanna have control over it. Anyway,
that's what it all stems down to.
what's that?
That's exactly what it stems down to,
That's
control.
the only way that they can control humanity is to put it. Why do you think they don't get karma? They put it out
Yeah.
there in plain sight for us, but it's because what's the word I'm looking for? They desensitize us to it so much that it's just, whatever. Oh,
Yeah.
aliens, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
serious, like, that's what they do. They desensitize us to it so much that when it actually comes into physical form from the astral, humanity's like, "Yeah, no biggie.
We
We'll be
yeah.
alright. What? Okay,
Yeah.
have fun, guys." You know? Okay, neurodivergent. Description is it includes various conditions like ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and others, where neurological variations affect, I don't know why I almost said offer, affect cognitive processing. Neurodivergent individuals may experience the world differently, often with heightened sensitivity or unique cognitive styles. I have a little story about this that's going to be probably quite helpful for maybe multiple people, hopefully. Spiritual gifts, synesthesia, and sensory perception. Neurodivergent individuals, especially those with synesthesia, a condition where stimulation of one sensory pathway leads to automatic, involuntary experiences in another, may experience phenomena similar to spiritual perceptions such as seeing auras or sensing energy. Empathy and mediumship. Many neurodivergent individuals report heightened empathy or sensitivity to others' emotions, which can enhance abilities in mediumship and psychic readings. Connection. Heightened sensory awareness. The unique ways in which neurodivergent brains process sensory information can align with spiritual experiences of heightened perception or sensitivity to energies and emotions, potentially facilitating spiritual gifts like mediumship or psychic abilities. Now, I have those things I do have heightened sensory issues. I get into hyper focus and somebody walks in and, "Hey, mom," or, "God, damn it." Like, I was doing something, and now I've lost my train of thought. Any of my exes could, and including the most recent one, could walk up to me and, just go in for a kiss or something, and I'm like, "What?" Like, get so mad, but it's not that I don't want affection or that I'm being conditional about it. I'm hypersensitive right now. I don't know why my senses are heightened. I don't know why I feel irritated. I feel the energy of something around me, but I can't pinpoint it, and it's pissing me off, you know? And so, "God,
Yeah.
you're such a bitch," is what I always get. But it's not that I'm being a bitch. I'm oversensitive. Read the room. Read my attitude. Read my whatever you need to, but sense how I'm feeling, and maybe this isn't the time to go get a kiss from her. Or maybe this isn't time to go get a hug. Like, read the room, people. Common sense. See, to me, that is common sense. But
And I think with a lot of us, because it's just something that comes so naturally. You step in a room, like I had a father that was narcissistic and
Mhm.
abusive. You stepped in the room and you could feel the
Yes.
tension. You could cut it. It was so palpable,
Mhm.
you know? So because of, how we grew up and how we feel and just like our connection to our inner guidance system and our knowing, we come along and to us, like you said, it's common sense. Like, how can you not read the energy of the room?
Right.
Which also goes back to neurotypical being actually not typical, is that we all have these gifts.
Yes. Well, and the only ones that don't have the gifts are the NPCs, and the NPCs, non-player characters, are the ones who you can tell by their eyes you can't read their eyes because they don't have a soul. Okay?
Yeah.
They have no inner content or dialogue. Those are the just in the way fucking with you kind of people, just like buffers is what I like to call them. They're a buffer. Okay, why is the
Mm,
buffer here? What am I being kept from? You know what I mean? So I just like you, like, growing up and especially, like, in my like, when I was out of high school and, like, because I lived in Vegas for 14 years. God, I hate that place. I was like, get me out of here, get me out of here." Like, I don't like the hot heat, like, slap you in the face, take your breath away kinda heat. People are like, "But it's a dry heat." I'm like, "Give me humidity any freaking day. Dry heat is the worst, okay?" Anyway, that being said, because I like to squirrel. Um, I would walk into a room. I have never been one to just give my energy to anyone. I'm not just gonna start talking to people I don't want to. Like, when I go into a room, and this is the way I have always been since I was little till now, I go into a room and I scan it. I am literally multitasking and listening to all the conversations that are going on, the body language, the energy, like, I can tell when I walk in if I'm going to fully fit in or if I'm probably gonna struggle and I need to just kinda keep myself away a little bit. I cannot tell you how many people who once they get to know me, they're like, "Dude, first impression you thought you were a bitch." Like, I was like, "You're not the first, and you'll not be the last." Like, I just and they're like, "Well, you weren't talking, like, you didn't socialize or interact." I was like, "Because I'm not gonna interact with people who are fake and just trying to fit in, like, I'm gonna
yeah.
interact with the ones who are true, true beings and the ones who, have, um are positive and, stuff like that, like, I read the room, and I can always
Yeah.
tell when I walk in when people have been talking shit too, like, because all of a sudden the room will shift and I'm like, "Yeah, they were just talking shit." "Oh, any good stuff, guys?" Like, "Alright, that was fun." So,
Yeah, it's a total superpower for sure.
it really is, and, but that's the thing too, do you know how to tell? I'm sure you do, but do you know how to tell when you're feeling something that isn't yours? When your mood just
Yeah.
instantly shifts and you can't
Yeah.
figure out why?
And it comes easily. And for me, the way I always confirm that it's not mine is I just ask my body, if it's not mine, I want it to leave my energetic field,
Mhm.
and instantly it will occur. If it's something that's not mine, I can
Get rid
transmute
of it.
it and return
Exactly.
it. Yeah, you know?
Well, I found, and this isn't for everybody, but because I have the clairvoyance and that's one of the strongest gifts that I have active. Usually, the person will pop in my head out of nowhere, like in and out, real quick, and my mood shifts like instant. Like I'm standing there just dancing, singing at the freaking stove, and all of a sudden I'm pissed, or like I'm ready to cry, and I'm like, "The hell was that?" And I have to
Yeah,
trace back. What was I just thinking about? And usually someone has just popped into my head, and so I'm like, "This isn't mine," you know? And so I put out there, anything and everything that is not mine to feel, I please send back to source to be transmuted, recycled, and born anew. And it instantly, like, it lifts. And so that
yeah,
is what has worked for me. So yeah, it's not all of these are like, except for the bipolar so far. Even though I do have those spiritual gifts. Um, maybe I'm just not accepting it. I don't know. um, but on to the next one. Okay, so we did neurodivergent. Okay, so the next one that because like I said, we only did four. I didn't go into all of them because there's way too many. The next one is autism and spiritual gifts. Um, ASD or autism spectrum disorder. The description is characterized by differences in social interaction, communication, and receptive behaviors. Individuals on the autism spectrum often have heightened focus and sensory sensitivities. Spiritual gifts include clairsentience and intuitive knowing. The heightened sensory awareness and focus found in autism can be similar to clairsentience, where individuals have a deep sense of knowing or feeling beyond the ordinary. Detailed observation and insight, the ability to notice subtle details and patterns, may enhance skills in remote viewing or accessing detailed spiritual insights. The connection is enhanced detail orientation. The focus and sensory acuity in autism can mirror the abilities needed for spiritual practices that require attention to fine details and subtle energies, supporting the development of gifts like clairsentience and detailed spiritual perception. So, again, I have these two, so maybe slightly on the scale here too. I don't know. But again, it goes back to that sensory thing. I'm highly sensitive. Don't touch me right now. Like, ah. And the thing is like we were talking outside of, before we hit record, is, you know, they're just now finding it in women that it's almost like they don't display it until their 30s and 40s is what my best friend was telling me. And if you think about it, like I said before, men externalize, it seems, whereas women have always internalized. So for them to externalize and internalize these symptoms as well would completely and utterly make sense. Women
right,
internalize everything, so why wouldn't they be internalizing ADHD? And because they're always in their head, right? Women feel because they're more usually, unless depending on the situation, they're more in touch with their divine feminine or with their feminine side, I guess you could say. Sometimes they're more masculine, but kinda I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we have both counterparts. It doesn't matter, gender, sex, whatever,
Yeah,
we have
but it's
kind
yeah, it's depending on how
of,
balanced you are because everything's about balance. You have to have
yeah,
balance, good and evil, light and dark.
yeah,
You can't have one without the other. We're supposed to be living in that gray area. They say, "Oh, it's
right,
a fine line, it's a gray area, you're not supposed to be there." No, you are supposed to be there. That means you're balanced, you're right in the middle. Like, you're not supposed just because you're a man doesn't mean you're supposed to be all in your masculine and not in your feminine, and just because you're a woman, same thing. You're not supposed to be all in your feminine and not in your masculine. You have to learn how to balance them out, and especially in a relationship. It is okay to have an alpha female because she's an alpha in nurturing. The man
Yep.
may be an alpha in protecting,
Right.
but the woman is that's gonna be lovely. Um, hey, I have a life. So,
Yeah.
um, has to be perfectly recorded? No, it doesn't. Um, stop. It's fine. Um, and even sometimes vice versa. The woman can be the alpha in protecting in that moment, and the male can be the nurturer in that moment. It is okay to have two alphas. You just have to learn how to coexist together. And I
Yeah.
was told that in my most recent experience was you need to get out of thinking that you're going to be the alpha here because you're not. And again, me with my ADHD, my neurodivergence, and all that bullshit, like you can have more than one alpha. Like you can have more than one alpha in the pack. You can. I'm sorry. That's just how it works. You just have to be willing to accept that. And if you can accept it, then you're not healed enough. And that's okay. We're not all healed and we're never going to all be fully healed. That's not how this works. You can
The
live
life.
as many lifetimes as you want as a reincarnated soul. You can ascend as many times as you want, but you're still never going to know it all.
Right.
So what are
Right.
you trying to do? Come in here saying that you're fully healed and you have no healing to do? Okay. Those are the most unhealed people, let me tell you. So, do I still have healing? Yes. Am I always gonna have some form of healing? Yes. Am I okay with that? Yes. Do I have a shadow side that I need to integrate in so that I can be a shadowy light version of myself so I can be balanced? Yes. Again, it's all about balance and yeah. So, anyway, what are your insights? Sorry.
No, I mean, I think it's important. Like we need to incorporate, and this goes for anything. Like there's a polarity, a duality. We can look at both sides of the same coin.
Mhm.
Light, dark, like we were just saying. But so much when we look at the connection between mental illness, mental disorders, mental health, mental wellness in the spiritual realm, can't be denied the overlap between the two. I think about so many times where I get downloads from my guides, and that communication, a lot of what I have is in addition to clairsentience, clairvoyance is clairaudience, and the messages that I hear, there's a fine line between someone being able to say, I'm having auditory hallucinations versus actual divine guidance,
Don't
and I
get me
think,
started on tinnitus either. Don't get me started. Do not get me started. That is just your guides trying to talk to you, and you know why you keep having it? Because 'Cause you're not listening. You're not
yeah,
listening.
and that's what trying to get your attention. They're going to make it known, just like with dreams
Exactly.
when you have it's a way of telling you need to pay attention and you need to pay attention to this now. This is urgent and important. And the more urgent and important, the more that they're going to do to in order to get those messages to you. Because like you said, you're clearly not listening in one way, shape,
Exactly.
or form. Hearing,
Exactly.
seeing, knowing how to do it. So there's no denying in that there is a deeply overlapping connection between the two at the end of the day. Whether it's your heightened sense of perception or your intuitive nudges and insights, they really go hand in hand, and you don't have one without the other, so to speak.
Well, and that's the thing too is, you can have an open this is what I've come to notice. You can have an open third eye, but still not have clairvoyance.
Yeah.
And the thing is I believe, if I remember correctly, or if I am understanding the information from my guides correctly, the third eye is the only one that has two clairs attached to it, where it's clairvoyance and clairaudience, because you have to realize that the third eye goes from the top tip of your nose, which goes to your ears to right about here, right about your hairline. Okay? That's going to include your ears, which is clairaudience and clairvoyance, right? And then on top of your head is the claircognizance. So that's the crown chakra. So, but that's the thing, that's what people don't understand. They're like, "I wanna open my third eye," and I'm like, "Are you hearing stuff?" And they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "You already have your third eye open. You may not see." "Well, I can't see."
Sure.
Just because I tell you to go in and see something doesn't mean I actually want you to see it. Use the feelings that you have, the senses that you have available to you, like, feel it. And the way that I associate it is, sonar on a dolphin. It sends
Mm,
out the sonar and it gets a picture, but it gets a picture of sound, right? Tune into the to meditate, tune into the sense that is available to you in the moment. I have gotten to the point where I don't know which one's active at the time. Like, sometimes I can see, like, physically see it, like, when I'm meditating. Other times, I have to use sound like, "Ooh, I hear magenta." Like, I
right.
taste orange. Ooh, I taste, yellow. Ooh, I smell red. It's just like you have to get into your senses. And I'm gonna be cliche here. You have to get into your feels. You have to
Mm,
feel your way through this, or you are going to feel so stuck. You have to allow
yeah.
your senses to take over in a sense. In a sense. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Very
Like,
much.
I don't know how else to explain that. But so go ahead. Did you have something to say?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think about, even if you think about the way that the anatomical ear is, we hear sound, but then it still needs to be processed into words, or like I mean, you can go on about things like light language and stuff like that
Ooh.
too. We could go down that people, we're hearing the sound. And as your gifts ascend, you're able to actually translate the language into English, so to speak. So our ears, it comes in, we hear it. It's still a filtering system as to what we process. It all works, and it's very much interconnected.
Do you wanna know what the original language of the universe is?
Let's hear it.
Elvish. Do you know why we can't
Really?
do you know why we can't find it anywhere to learn it?
No.
Because they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to have access to the original language. Light language is the closest derivative to Elvish, okay? On top of
Mm.
that, then you go from light language to Latin. So Latin is 2 versions down. Latin is gonna be
I think
your closest aside from light. And let me tell you, these people saying that they speak light language, do you see the eye raised right now? Oh my god. No. Doing like, what? Ugh. I can't tell you how many people I have to, like, block and scroll past because I'm like, "Oh, that's not right." You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people, and there are a few, don't get me wrong, there are a few who know, and I'll listen to them. But the ones who just repeat the same words over and over and over again, they're just trying to get your money. Keep scrolling, people. Anyway,
I
sorry.
mean, I believe light language wholeheartedly, and it's something that I remember just the other day standing in front of the mirror, and I've had so many downloads about light language and whatnot, and I went to scream. I was so angry, and I wanted a form of release, and I went to scream, and words and sounds, and it almost sounded like I was speaking in tongues. I didn't recognize them, I didn't know them, I knew nothing. So like, I know that an activation is happening deep within me. Like, a lot of people will tell you same thing. I've listened to some people, and I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I don't even feel anything energetically. It
Mhm.
feels like, and that's a whole nother thing we can get into, is like the manipulation of spiritual entrepreneurs and stuff like that is very real,
Mhm.
because there are a lot of scam artists,
Right.
and you really have to use that discernment in who you work with,
Right.
and I think it's up to us with these gifts that we have, to use them as your inner guidance system. That's what it's made for, is to literally guide your path and guide your existence, and guide your human experience on a soul level.
Right.
So
So
interesting and
yeah, I know. So To give you guys a little bit of a history lesson, ADHD did not always exist. Did not always exist. It has not always been called ADHD. Um, and on top of that, the doctor who created ADHD actually made a biography. I have to go back to figure out which doctor because there were three of them. Um, actually went and created a bibliography, biography, whatever it was before he passed away, and said, "Yeah, I made it all up." And funny thing is, you can't find that book anywhere. Interesting how that happens, right? But it was not always called ADHD. In the 50s, they called it, um, excuse me, they called it hyperkinetic impulse disorder. So, for by breaking this down, hyperkinetic, the word hyperkinetic is derived from two components. Hyper, a prefix meaning excessive or abnormally high. Kinetic, derived from the Greek word kinetikos, meaning related to motion or movement. Together, hyperkinetic describes a condition characterized by excessive movement or activity. Let's break down impulse. Refers to a sudden, strong, and unreflective urge to or desire to act. And now we get to the last one, which is the one we were talking about before we hit record. Disorder implies a disturbance or abnormality in the functioning of an organ or body system. Now let's break down the etymology of disorder. We'll do order. In the 1100s, which is where it seems to have started, from Latin ordinem, means row, line, rank, series, pattern, arrangement, routine, originally, a row of threads in a loom. Pretty self-explanatory here. By the 1200s, we have started to pervert it to body of persons living under a religious discipline. Well, that's not right. Then you want to add in dis, which originates from the Roman underworld god, contracted from dives, riches, um, which is related to divus, divine god. So um, from pi root diu to shine. I didn't even see this part before. This is more interesting. To shine. In derivatives is sky, heaven, God, hence favored by God. So dis, favored by God, and an order, which is a ranking, something like that. So a disorder is, if you put that together, favored by a pattern favored by God, but yet we've perverted it to a disturbance or abnormality in functioning in a body organ. Come on, guys. Look at your etymology. Come on. It's not that hard. You've got to break it down. The English language is the worst for conditioning humanity. It's the worst. If you and my witchiness is gonna step in here just for a second. If you were to do any divine workings, they say use any other language other than English because English has the lowest vibrational is it's the lowest vibrational language. If you're going to do
I have heard
anything,
that.
do it in Latin. Latin is the closest thing to the original language. Do it in Latin. That's my suggestion. I do it in Latin. I don't even go to the other languages. I'm like, yeah, let's just go back to the top. The English language. Oh, ugh, it's disgusting. It's why it's the hardest language to learn. Hardest language to
Hmm.
learn. German being the second hardest. What? It's insane. It's insane. But yeah, insane. Speaking of all these disorders and stuff that we're talking about. Um. Anyway, no coincidences. Um. So yeah, this has been an interesting breakdown for sure. Definitely. But yeah, like you can see, and you guys, I got this off of I had pieces coming from the internet that you guys think it's not out there, but it is. I had my own ideas. I had, it's not that I pieced this together to make this mine. I took what information is given, it's out there, but it's so suppressed. You can't find it.
Yeah,
You
and it's
can't find it.
logical. It makes sense. There's the common sense aspect to it when you look at, how we've been conditioned and even our own experience as someone who's been deemed neurodivergent or ADD and stuff like that. We were talking about briefly before we hit the record how, I've been told my whole life my brain is really illogical. Like I may,
It's not.
get
We're
to the
system
same answer.
breakers. That's why.
Yeah, we get to the same answer, but somehow my methodology and how I got there is inaccurate,
No.
So, yeah, I think that there's so much work to be done in really getting this out there because, like you said, it's on the internet, but it's so well hidden that this isn't something that's commonly
Well,
discussed.
and that's just like the CIA coming out with stuff, but decades later. I
Yeah,
guarantee you this came from their information. I guarantee it.
yeah,
So why is it so hard to believe? Well, because we become and that's the thing is that's what I notice about people who just choose not to believe about aliens and life on other planets and stuff like that is because they don't want to feel like they've been duped. They
yeah,
don't want to feel that rage and anger of, "Oh my god, I've allowed myself to fall under a spell." Like, it's not even so much that. It's like we've all been through it. Although myself, I've questioned you can ask my even my family, like I question everything, even since I was little. They're like, "Christina." I'm like, it doesn't make sense, you know? And so I would always, stomp my feet. It's like, no, like it just no. And I was always constantly questioning, and so every time I like raise my hand in class, they're like, "Oh, Christina, again," and it's just like, what? Screw you guys. I have a question. I'm gonna ask it. Because that's the
oh,
thing is, I found out, doing my soul contract destiny, or soul destiny contract or whatever it's called. I found out I literally found out what it's here, and I'm a 5/5. 5/5s are here to
oh,
literally break the systems and innovate new ways of doing things that are going to be much better going forward for the future. And that's literally what I'm here to do. My brain
oh,
can't settle on one thing to do because it's constantly progressing to the next stage. And so I get started in doing healing, and then I switch to doing healing intent jewelry, and then I'm on to the next thing and, making bath bombs. Oh, I don't want to do that anymore. And so I'm on to the next thing, and it's just like, they're like, find your niche. I'm like, I don't know what it is, I'm not supposed to have one. So I get so frustrated. But then I found out I'm at 5/5 and I'm like, I'm not supposed to have any. I'm literally just supposed to do what I feel like doing in the moment. And then when I am progressed on past that to go into the next thing and just release the rest. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, the soul destiny contracts have a lot to do with it. Your astrology charts have a lot to do with this stuff. Your your life path number. And it's not your regular life path number, it's your Hebrew. You're supposed to use the Hebrew. Oh, that shit drives me crazy. The numerology with the Hebrew uh alphabet, the yeah, that alphabet. Um, and so, all these things intertwine into who we are as a person, what kind of contracts we came in here to fulfill, stuff like that. On top of having the and allowing, basically having, okay, we're going to have all these clairs. That means by society standards, we're going to be labeled as all these different things, right? And you have to accept it. No, you don't. You don't have to accept anything. Stop taking that label. If you take that label, you're diminishing yourself. You are regressing yourself. You are literally limiting yourself. You know what I mean? And because clairvoyance, all of these clairs don't have limitations. I don't feel
Yeah,
like they
very
do. I'm constantly stepping into new ways of ways that clairvoyance comes through, and clairaudience, and like a song will get stuck in my head or ringing in my ears, or there's different levels of everything, right?
right.
So to limit yourself and basically say, "Oh, I have ADHD." No, you don't. You have these clairs. Now go hone them. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
I'm here to help
yeah,
anybody who needs help. I really am. Like, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to break systems. I'm here to innovate. And, anyone who's not on board with that can leave. I don't need you here. You're not, and that's the funny thing too is people I don't ever dream about for the last 2 days have been swarming me. For the last 2 days, last 2 nights have been swarming me. Unless this dream today, I can't tell you how many people I have never, in my family, I never dream about coming in trying to control me.
mm,
Control me. And then the one
yeah,
blew the smoke, and that wasn't even, a family member, but this person tried to blow the smoke in my face, and I saw it coming, and so I literally and I even in reality, I felt myself take a deep breath before the smoke hit me, and I let the smoke dissipate, and then which kinda blew it out farther, and then I took my breath.
yeah,
And then they
mm,
tried to do it a second time, and that's when I jumped too, and I was like, "Chow!" Like, it's
yeah.
crazy. So crazy. They're
Dreams are
I'm telling you, they're trying to
cool.
stop this information, and it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Alright, well, this was fun. I wanna do this again.
This was fun.
I've got
Thank you so much.
multiple topics, so definitely can't wait to do another one.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for people to just feel seen, heard, and understand through this because I think it's
Exactly.
usually the opposite that we feel, so
Mhm.
unheard, unseen, unspoken with this content,
Right.
and being able to speak the truth of it all. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to that.
Alrighty. Well, it's great to have you, and we'll talk again.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.